Assassin's Creed 1 is a brilliant game filled with many memorable assassination missions for us to do. From beloved assassinations with taking out a corrupt doctor inside of his fortress to more infamous assassination missions such as taking out Sibrand in the docks surrounded by water, there's no shortage of assassinations you can do in this game. So today I wanted to take some time and go over all the assassination missions in the game and rank them from the worst to the very best. Before we jump into the video, this is all just my opinion and my personal ranking may differ from yours, and that's perfectly okay. I encourage you to leave your personal ranking for the assassinations of this game down in the comments below. And while this ranking is going from worst to best, for the most part, I don't hate any of these assassinations. Far from it. I've played this game religiously. I may not like certain aspects, and even if they're near the bottom, that doesn't mean I despise them. I also won't be considering the investigation missions, which you can do in order to get to the assassination missions. I will be focusing solely on the assassination mission itself. Starting off this video, we're going to go with an honourable mention, and that's the Masyaf traitor assassination mission at the beginning of Memory Block 2. The Masyaf traitor, as the name suggests, is a traitor who let the Templar Knights into the city, causing the siege of Masyaf over the piece of Eden which Malik retrieved from Solomon's temple. The reason this is here is for a few reasons, the big one being that this is just an extended tutorial on how to do the investigation missions throughout the game. While important for the first time players to get familiar with how the game works and the gameplay loop, for replay playthroughs this whole part is just a slog. This becomes even more prevalent when you want to do the Tamir assassination mission and you have to go through the tutorials every single time. The second reason I'm putting it here as an honourable mention is due to the fact we don't actually get to assassinate him. Instead we bring him to Mualim and he performs the killing blow. So for the majority of this assassination mission it's just cutscenes followed by a few investigation missions and more cutscenes. It's not fun after multiple playthroughs for me personally, and it just becomes unnecessary hurdle in order to get to Tamir. So considering that point and we don't get to assassinate him, I'm bringing it up here as a little honourable mention. I don't know how controversial this is going to be, but at the bottom of the list we have Talal. Talal is the first target we have to take out in the city of Jerusalem. Talal is a slave trader and he is taking the people of Jerusalem, the sick and broken, and sending them off to Acre in order to have twisted experiments performed upon them by the twisted doctor Garnier de Naplouse. The reason for putting this assassination here may seem quite silly, especially when you take into consideration the final few entries, but the main reason it's here is that you cannot do this assassination without getting into combat. I do love the themes of this assassination. You can argue that the reason this leads from combat to a chase is thematic to Altair as a character. It would make sense that Altair at this point in the story wouldn't be as calm and collected as he is with the other targets and doesn't think everything through. That Talal knew that he was coming and made it easier for Altair to get to him. That, and after the first sign of trouble with us dispatching the guards he employs, he'd run away because we'd know he's a coward from doing the investigation missions. I just wish that there was a way that we could have done this mission without the scripted chase sequence and could have got the drop on him, but that's the reason it's so low on the list. For the next entry we have on the list, we have Tamir. Tamir is the first target we take out in the city of Damascus and the first assassination we complete after doing the tutorial in Memory Block 2. Tamir is a black market arms dealer specialising in weapons and armour for the Templar forces. The reason it's so low on this list is mainly due to the fact that it's the first assassination that we get to do in the game, and it's the easiest to do without getting detected, and there's no real challenge for repeated playthroughs, which isn't a bad thing because it is the first assassination. You don't want to overwhelm the player, but for me I find it's just too easy to do at this point. I do love the assassination, and definitely one of the most iconic in the game given that it's the first assassination that we get to do in the entire franchise. We get to see him argue with another merchant and stab him to death for insulting him, and it is visceral. I do enjoy how we can get behind him while he's inspecting his goods and just stab him from behind. It's an easy enough assassination for beginners, but for experienced players it's very quick and there's not much variety in terms of how we can get to the target. The only other reason that this assassination is so low on this list, given that I really enjoy this assassination, is due to the fact that if we want to replay this assassination, we have to go through the extended tutorial on how to do the investigation missions with the Masyaf traitor. That's not fun for me personally and does bring down the assassination a fair bit, because in order to take out Tamir on a replay playthrough, you have to do the Masyaf traitor with the investigation tutorials, do a quick tutorial in the kingdom with the viewpoints, and then ride on over to Damascus just to get there, which can take up to roughly 30 minutes. Now, as I said in the beginning of the video, I do not hate these assassination missions, and when coming up with this list it was a bit of a struggle because some have to be at the bottom. That's just how a ranking works. But for this entry on the list we have the assassination of Jubayer, a scholar who's burning books and scrolls in the city of Damascus, and is one of the last ones we can do in the city. This assassination is unique, as there's not one but 3 potential targets you have to deal with, and your job is to figure out which one is Jubayer, as they all look the same within reason. Now, this is a good premise, and I love it, and if you don't do all the investigation missions, you'll struggle to know which target is which. That alone is a good incentive to do them. I enjoy the assassination. I just wish that they had done more with the mission itself. Jubayer is in the city and he's preaching to the people while books are being burned, and if he sees you and you do the investigation missions, you'll know exactly where he'll run off to, but it's very easy to get him without being detected if you know what you're doing. That, and there's no incentive on taking out the other 2 followers of Jubayer who are also burning books. Once you take out Jubayer, that's it. No worries. For one of the final missions in the game, which focuses heavily on stealth and investigation, it'd have been cool if they did a little bit more with this mission. I would have liked it if they had done something similar to Dishonored and the Boyle sisters, where the location of Jubayer is randomized each time to spice things up. But what we have, it's okay personally. I just wish more could have been done for repeat playthroughs, or have a reason to take out the followers of Jubayer rather than it not meaning anything. For this spot on the list, we have the assassination of Majd Addin, the regent of Jerusalem, in the stead of Salah ad-Din, who revels in killing innocents and entertaining the crowd, along with being the second assassination that takes place in the city of Jerusalem. I love the framing of this assassination personally. We arrive at the beginning of an execution where we need to not only take out the target, but also save one of our brothers from being killed too. So with this mission, there's an element of urgency which I didn't find anywhere else outside of Talal, given you have to chase him to kill him. When I'm playing this mission, I try and make it my mission to take him out before he has a chance to kill any of the innocent civilians up on the stage, because I feel like that's the right thing to do. With that being said, the reason it's here on the list, and I guarantee that this is a skill issue on my part, is the fact that I cannot for the life of me seem to assassinate him without it ending up in a fight. I will sneak off to the sides of the stage and try and air assassinate him. That doesn't seem to work for me. I try and use the monks, but that doesn't seem to work. This is truly a skill issue, and that's why it's at this point on the list, but other than that, this is a really good assassination. The vibe of the mission is brilliant. The stakes are high. If you're not fast enough, people are going to get killed, and doing it stealthily and not breaking out into a fight is a challenge, and a good one at that. I think I personally just need to practice this one more, but as far as assassination missions go, this is a brilliant one. For our next target, we have William of Montferrat, the regent of Acre in the stead of King Richard the Lionheart, who he had an uneasy relationship with after the massacre, and is the second assassination target we take out in the city of Acre. This assassination is pretty enjoyable for me, and it's definitely where the game starts to become more of a challenge. William is holed up inside of a fortress which is crawling with some of the best soldiers in King Richard's army. When we get to the fortress, we can see that William is arguing with King Richard once again, and he storms off to rally his troops for a meeting inside of the fort. There's a few ways that you can get to the target now, and we have enough tools at our disposal in order to choose how best to get close to him. It's satisfying going from street level to the rooftops, taking down guards with throwing knives and hidden blades, only to get to the courtyard to see William talking to his troops, blissfully unaware of our presence, only to perform an air assassination and take his life. It's a perfect part of the game where the missions truly do open up, and the investigation missions provide a lot of useful information too. What's also great about this mission for me personally is that once we kill him, the whole fortress is on high alert, and we cannot leave the way we came in as the portcullis has been closed. So we have 2 choices. We can either fight our way out, or climb the fortress walls and escape that way. This assassination is brilliant, and definitely a joy to complete on repeat playthroughs, which is why I've included it here on the list. Up next we have Garnier de Naplouse, the twisted doctor of Acre who's performing experiments upon the people given to him by Talal, and is the first target we do in the city of Acre. I love this mission for a few reasons. One being that the introduction cutscene we get with him is intense. We see a patient trying to escape, only to have his legs broken by the guards on Garnier's orders so he doesn't try escaping again. He switches from calm and kind to impatient and aggressive with a snap of his fingers. It really does set the mood for the mission. I enjoy the fact that it's our first real stealth opportunity in the game. We have to get to Garnier without getting detected, and there's a few ways of going about it. We can climb the rafters and get to him that way. We can use the monks to get to him, or we can blend by ourselves and avoid the patients who will lash out and push you, exposing you if you're not careful. The mission is tense, especially with limited equipment, and the atmosphere of the location is thick. I love it so much, and the confession scene where we can have with him where he tells us that he's trying to help these people and has succeeded, only for them to go back to being mentally ill and low lives with his passing, is sad. But it also explains why as the game goes on, there are more of his patients spotted around the cities from this point onwards because of our actions. It's a cool detail and makes me feel like our actions matter in the game, which is why I've decided to rank this assassination here on the list. For our 4th spot on this list, we have the Merchant King of Damascus, a wealthy and extravagant man hosting a lavish party in his palace, and the second target we have to take out in Damascus. This mission is a standout for me, and I love the atmosphere of the entire thing. Throughout your entire time doing an investigation mission, you're hearing about this lavish party, only for the wine to be poisoned and the Merchant King having his guards fire arrows upon the party guests simply because the people judge him for being different, in this case a homosexual. So when we finally have to take the Merchant King out, it's a bloodbath, but we can use that to our advantage. There are a number of ways of getting to him, but a more direct approach will cause you to get detected and he will start running away, which is fine because his run is quite funny and everyone needs to see that at least once. But it is so satisfying being able to kill him from above or behind without being detected while he's witnessing the terror unfolding in his palace. I like how the stakes are completely different. You cannot help these people, but you can make sure this doesn't happen again. It's not all going to plan. You didn't anticipate this, so the information you're given is slightly thrown off, leading you to improvise and make the best of a bad situation. The game really lets you have fun with this one and see what you'll do, and for the longest time I never figured out how to do it stealthily, but now I know how, and it's one of my favourites. I enjoy this mission a lot, and for that reason it's going here on my list. Getting into the top 3 of the best assassinations of Assassin's Creed 1, and for this spot it's Jubayer de Sable, leader of the Knights Templar and the final assassination we have to do for the hunt for the 9. Now Dabini boy, I hear you cry. Why are you putting Jubayer here when you put Talal at the very bottom due to not being able to play it stealthy? That's a very good question, and I'll do my best to justify myself. Hear me out. This whole assassination mission is a roller coaster from start to finish, and for that reason alone I love it. I love the rebuilding of trust and connection with Malik from the beginning of the game, seeing Altair's growth. I love how when you get to the graveyard to take Jubayer down, it's a trap and they knew we were coming. We then have to fight our way through not only Saracen but Templar Knights as well in order to get to Jubayer, only to find out that he is actually a she and Jubayer was never here. We then learn our assassinations were playing to his advantage and is using our killings as a way to unite the Saracen and Templar armies to destroy the assassins. So not only do we get some increased stakes, we also get some character growth from Altair, as not only does he let the mysterious woman go, because she's not his target, but he takes initiative and asks Malik to see if he missed something in Solomon's temple and rise to Masyaf in order to stop Jubayer from destroying the assassins. This then leads us to fight through wave after wave of knights on both sides before we can fight Jubayer de Sable in a one-on-one fight. I love this personally for the many twists and revelations this assassination brings, along with the fact it gives me an excuse to use the combat system to its fullest at this point without any constraints. I've got the best weapons, I've got all my skills, I've got everything I need to make the system work to the best of its ability, and it becomes a lot of fun for me personally, which is why I'm including it here on the list. Now this is where I imagine I'm going to shock a few people, but for my number 2 spot on this list it's the assassination of Sibrand, the paranoid knight who's hiding out in the docks for fear of being assassinated and is the final assassination target of Acre. I know that a lot of people consider this to be the worst assassination mission in the game. I'm well aware, and the justification for that is completely valid. I've done a whole video on why I think otherwise, but for the reasons why it's disliked so much, it's why I love it so much. I think the parkour in this game is some of the very best we've seen in the franchise. While other entries added new moves and objects to interact with, the parkour in AC1 is great, and for this mission we really get to use it under new conditions, that being the water. Sibrand is hiding out on his ship in the Acre docks and we need to get to him, and it's not easy. There are tons of soldiers on high alert ready to attack on sight. There are drunks roaming the docks, and there's the ever-present issue of falling into the water and drowning. This is a problem, but when you do the investigation missions it's not so much a problem because you automatically know where the best routes are depending on what you want to deal with, and given there's multiple ways to get to your target, there's a lot of replayability here should you want to experiment. But even outside of that, Sibrand's assassination is just really cool, seeing how paranoid he is of us, how he'll go to such extreme lengths as to hide on a ship in the docks to killing a monk for simply looking similar to an assassin. It's really intense and shows how our actions are affecting our enemies. The level of fear we inspire along with the level design and how difficult this mission can be is the reason I'm including it here as my number 2 spot. And for our number 1 spot, it's none other than the assassination of Mualim, the leader of the assassins. This isn't your typical assassination, so there's no way to do this stealthily, but in terms of a final boss, a final unexpected assassination, I love it a lot. A lot is riding on this assassination thematically. You find out what Abstergo is looking for in the modern day, but not only that, we have the fate of the Assassin Brotherhood hanging in the balance, and it's up to Altair to face off against his master using the Piece of Eden, having us on the back foot. We get some insightful conversations with Mualim about the nature of the Templar treasure, about how wrong religion is and how his method is the right thing to do from his perspective. We not only get a physical confrontation but a mental one too, discussing ideology. We end up fighting the spectres of our previous assassination targets, only trying to have it seem that we're cutting down our fellow assassins before they disappear. We witness the power of the apple firsthand, holding us in place, summoning multiple versions of Mualim. It's just a great fight. While it may not be a traditional assassination mission, for a final boss fight it's a very well done one, and it's enjoyable no matter how many times I play it. We get more of the combat but with unexpected twists from the Piece of Eden, and was such a nice way of wrapping up the game and showing us a glimpse of the power of these pieces of Eden. Not only that, but the way the colour had been stripped from the world during this section to be bleak and lifeless, more lifeless and bleak than Acre, goes to show the type of world that the Templars want with this kind of power. So it's for all these reasons as to why I'm including it as my personal favourite assassination mission in Assassin's Creed 1. And that's my list. It's probably going to confuse some people, and honestly fair enough, as it was confusing me too trying to put this list together, and it is quite difficult. I decided not to focus on investigation missions and focus solely on the assassination itself, so hopefully I was a tad fair in this ranking. But my question to you is, what would you rank the assassination targets in AC1? Where would you place them from worst to best? Drop a comment down below, and hopefully you found this video somewhat engaging. It was tricky trying to make this list, as I do think they're all good targets, but some of them had to be at the bottom, and this was the version that made sense to me personally, so hopefully it's all good. This is again just my opinion, so whatever you enjoy is subjective. If you're a fan of Assassin's Creed and you like this video, I reckon you may enjoy the video that's up on screen now. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate that a lot, and thank you for voting for this idea on the poll I did as well. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next video.